In less than 14 hours, Hurricane Milton will make landfall on the western coast of Florida. Winds will be fierce at well over 100 miles per hour, with storm surges reaching up to 15 feet and up to 18 inches of rain. It's looking like the storm of the century.
Powerful words from President Biden as Hurricane Milton quickly approaches. Its effects already being felt across Florida. This is a special edition of WUFT's First at 5. I'm Juan Chaoui.
And I'm Nicole Beltran. Hurricane Milton's outer bands are already bringing intense weather conditions to Florida, with heavy rainfall, fast winds, and several tornadoes. Less than 24 hours ago, I-75 was swollen with evacuees heading north. Many have sought shelter here in north central Florida. But as you can see from our live DOT camera, the roads are bare as Floridians have found their safe spaces. Let's get to the very latest. Florida's Chief Financial Officer, Jimmy Patronis, has mobilized more than 1,600 urban search and rescue teams to help save people after Milton passes. The National Hurricane Center is telling people in evacuation areas to move away from windows if you've stayed behind. And leaders now say that this is a time to make sure you charge your devices and are ready for power outages when the storm hits.
We've got team coverage as Milton inches closer to Florida tonight. UF forecaster Matthew Clark starts us off with the new Milton numbers just in from the National Hurricane Center.
Latest 5 p.m. update has winds dropping down to 120 miles per hour, which is still a strong Category 3. Don't expect it to drop much further as it makes landfall. Still moving northeast at 17 miles per hour. Track did not shift really at all. It still covers up from Tampa down to Fort Myers, and the track still has it kind of moving to the northeast. Possibly Bradenton could see the center of the storm. Landfall expected around 12 a.m., also around 1 a.m. It's going to tail off into the Atlantic Ocean after landfall and whatnot. Live radar right now, we have a lot of rain coming from the outer bands from Milton, seeing a lot of that rain right now. Future track, eye of the storm, kind of parallel off the coast of Sarasota right now. Landfall has it around 12 a.m. in Bradenton, just south of Tampa. Still seeing a lot of rain and gusty winds in our area on our Thursday night around 12 a.m. and into Thursday morning around 4 a.m. before it tails off on Thursday afternoon. Still could see some gusty tropical storm force winds from this as we head into Thursday night. Storm surge, not too much of an issue for the Big Bend regions, but further south there is a lot to be determined with where the center of the storm hits. South of the storm, we could see up to 13 feet in Siesta Key. Life-threatening storm surge that is not survivable. Storm alerts, pretty much the entire Florida Peninsula is under a hurricane warning or a tropical storm warning up to this point. And for the most part, we're going to be keeping an eye on it as it starts to make landfall. Campus Cam, dreary day right now. We've already almost seen an inch of rain with winds at 23 miles per hour right now.
Thank you, Matthew. The city of Gainesville is currently under a tropical storm warning as Milton gets closer to Florida's west coast. WUFT's Jada Ross is live in the studio to share how Gainesville city officials considered the best practices to keep citizens safe among stormy conditions. Jada?
In a press conference this morning, city officials discussed the idea of putting Gainesville under a curfew during Hurricane Milton. However, the idea was not approved.
Curfew in Gainesville came up, but city leaders opted not to enforce one.
We've chosen not to do that right now. It's not right for us. But we want to make you all aware that it was, something that we had to consider for public safety.
Many, if not all, areas in Gainesville are expected to lose power between Wednesday night and Thursday. During Hurricane Helene, 3/4 of Gainesville's traffic lights went dark and stayed dark for a while. The city had 13 reported crashes at those dark intersections. Some feel a curfew may prevent those types of incidents from happening during the catastrophic Milton. Drivers are encouraged to stay off the roads, especially when it's dark.
Stay home if you can, please. Certainly a lot of preparations should have already been done. So the expectation is that we have a very quiet city street.
If you are on the roads, remember to treat all dark traffic lights as stop signs. Don't drive or walk through standing water, and listen to directions from police officers and firefighters.
We all know the right choices to make. Stop, think about it before you do something, make good choices, and check on your people.
This in an effort to keep the city safe.
Gainesville will continue to be under flood watch through Thursday night. As city officials have already said, please stay inside and please stay safe. I'm Jada Ross, WUFT News.
The Marion County Sheriff's Office is warning residents about possible flooding in low-lying areas. Sheriff Office officials say that the self-serve sandbag locations are still open throughout the county while supplies last and while the weather permits. The county also shared tips to protect your home. There are 9 sandbag locations around the county, including in Tuscola Park in Ocala and Dunalin Park Public Works in Dunalin. Residents should know if their home is in a flood zone and develop a flood emergency action plan. If you are able to, you should evacuate and take important documents with you. If you encounter flood water after the storm, avoid downed utility wires and don't drive through flooded roads.
And the Alachua County Sheriff's Office shared that all administrative offices will be closed today and Thursday. On-site visitation for the jail will be canceled for all visits scheduled Thursday, but remote visitation will continue as normal. Alachua County has 3 emergency shelters open for those who need alternative housing. WUFT's Alex Land continues our team coverage live in the studio with how the community is hunkering down.
The MLK Center shelter is now at maximum capacity. I spoke to shelter managers and guests about services that are being provided.
I feel a lot safer here.
Shelter guest Joseph Jordan lives in a mobile home. He stayed at the MLK Center during Hurricane Helene, so the decision to return was a no-brainer.
I heard it's going to be a little worse than 2 weeks ago when I stayed here, but I trust my Lord and Savior, so He'll protect us.
Shelter Assistant Manager Shannon Broom says they are serving anyone who needs help.
We're just here to assist the residents as they come in and be just a support as a county as a whole. A lot of them have traveled a long way, and we just want to be that help.
This shelter, unlike most, provides 3 hot meals a day, when for others you have to bring your own food. But guests should bring their own bedding and spare clothing. The shelter is also pet-friendly. However, guests should have their own pet supplies and vaccination records. Broom says she is fulfilled by being able to help the community during times when the future is uncertain.
As a Christian, it's my duty to assist, not only as a county employee, but as a Christian. I feel like it is our duty to assist all of those that are in need.
The Newberry shelter is open to the general population and is pet friendly. A special needs shelter is also open at the Alachua County Senior Recreation Center. UF students, family, and faculty can take shelter at Southwest Recreation Center. Alachua County says the Newberry shelter has plenty of space at the moment. Live in the studio, Alex Land, WUFT News.
If you live in a mandatory evacuation zone, Uber has you covered with a free ride to a shelter. The state of Florida is partnering with Uber to provide these rides, and the promo code has been updated. To access your ride, add the code MiltonRelief1 to your Uber wallet. You can find a state-approved shelter at floridadisaster.org. Animal shelters are getting much-needed help from fosterers as they prepare for Hurricane Milton. WUFT's Kade Sowers visited one to see firsthand how its preparation is going.
Gainesville's pet population is getting ready to hunker down for the storm. The Humane Society of North Central Florida is hard at work making sure pets are staying safe during Hurricane Milton. According to Humane Society Director of Development Francisca Raybear, more than 200 fosters have opened up their homes for a dog or cat in need of shelter during the storm. She's thankful for the support, especially with the shelter's recent influx of animals displaced from Hurricane Helene.
We have an additional probably 100 animals in our care now than we had before Helene. We're probably on 350 animals in our care.
During COVID, seasoned foster Elizabeth Grover took in 10 dogs. With Milton approaching, she is ready to welcome another foster pet into her home.
This little girl will be with 3 other dogs, a cat, bearded dragon, 2 kids, so it's a house full, but always room for one more, especially under these circumstances.
Although a generous number of pets are being fostered during the storm, there's still a handful who will be staying in the shelter. Raybear emphasizes the remaining pets will still be safe at the Humane Society.
We will have somebody stay here until later.
And for now, they just want to make sure the animals stay safe through the storm.
If you would like to adopt a pet from the Humane Society, they will be holding an adoption event on October 19th. Live in the studio, Kade Sowers, WUFT News.
The Walmart store in East Silver Springs in Ocala has announced on their Facebook page that they plan to reopen at 4 p.m. on Thursday. Associates will be in earlier to help prepare others for customers in need. First responders in Levy County say their fuel supplies are being replenished and that neighbors should expect a surge in traffic once Milton passes. Deputies say expect southbound traffic to be backed up on US 19 and State Road 26 as early as Friday morning. That's due to those who fled Hurricane Milton returning back home. Leaders want you to try to limit your travels until the traffic impacts slow down.
As Hurricane Milton approaches, we have been learning about its magnitude and impact. JC, you had the chance to speak with one of our meteorologists about the storm.
That's right, Nicole. I spoke with UF meteorologist William Maxim about what sets this hurricane apart from others. When First at 5 returns, we'll be taking a look at what makes Hurricane Milton a historic storm. A couple of floors below me, the WUFT weather team is tracking the storm and getting the latest updates on Milton's path and effects. I spoke with WUFT meteorologist William Maxim about what makes this Hurricane Milton so historic.
It's one of the most powerful. It's already, it's one of the top 5 hurricanes ever.
It was very unlikely for it to become this big. Just one reason why meteorologist William Maxim believes Milton is a unique storm.
It struggled for a long time, but I think what made it able to catch on was the fact that it just stayed in the same place for so long.
The storm hovered in the Gulf of Mexico unbothered, which allowed it to become what NASA calls the fastest Atlantic storm to intensify from a tropical depression to a Category 5 hurricane, which Milton did in just over 48 hours. If the hurricane makes landfall in Tampa Bay, it'll be the first major storm to do so in over a century.
We think it's going to cause a lot of damage because the amount of time it's been since there's been a storm like this in the Tampa area, so it's like 100 years.
He says it's been so long since there's been a major storm, buildings in that area might not be up to code. He also thinks most of St. Petersburg will be underwater after the storm passes.
The White House announced a new Reddit page today aimed at limiting the spread of misinformation surrounding Hurricanes Helene and Milton. Plus, Vice President Harris spoke at a briefing earlier to express the administration's commitment to helping those affected by the storm.
And in the hours and days ahead, President Biden and I and our administration will continue to do everything we can to protect the people who have been in the path of this storm. And once the storm has passed, we will be there to help folks recover and rebuild.
Harris's comments come after federal support for Helene passed $210 million, and Biden approved an emergency declaration for Florida earlier this week, providing direct federal support to the state.
Milton is just hours away from making landfall as a strong Category 3 hurricane. I will have the latest track and more coming up next.
You're watching WUFT-TV News.
Hurricane Milton is still expected to make landfall as a strong Category 3 storm this evening and into the wee hours of Thursday morning. Right now at the 5 p.m. update, winds 120 miles per hour, about 60 miles off the coast of Sarasota. Still moving northeast though at around 17 miles per hour. The track did shift a scotch up to the north, looking like Bradenton could see the center of this, the Sunshine Skyway, and into St. Pete. Thursday morning, still a Cat 1 as it makes its way off into the Atlantic and then eventually just tailing off into the Atlantic as a post-tropical depression. Thankfully, it has picked up speed and is starting to move quicker, so the effects aren't going to last nearly as long as if it was slowing down. 24 hours ago, the infrared satellite was still a Category 5 hurricane, but because it started to enter an area of wind shear and drier air, it's a pretty disorganized storm now. Center of the storm, can't really see it, but it's around here, 60 miles off the coast of Sarasota right now. Very disorganized to the north and northeast of the storm. Drier air that I was talking about, this is the front that's been pushing it to our area. Some of this drier air is getting wrapped around into the center of the storm, which is why the bottom part of the eye has kind of been cut off, which is good and bad. It's good because it's not going to make landfall as a strong Category 5, but it's bad because it's making the wind field and the rain field a lot larger in our parts of the area. And even though that storm is 60 miles off the coast of Sarasota, seeing a lot of those rain bands making their way through Gainesville, Ocala, the villages, seeing some strong storms in Orlando, Oak Hill, Daytona Beach, seeing a lot of the rain. Moving to the Tampa, this is the Tampa radar right now. The eye of the storm is down here. A lot of strong thunderstorms and supercell thunderstorms carrying strong tornadoes near Melbourne, Phelpsville, and Fort Pierce. Right now, I'll cover those tornadoes in a little while. Futurecast Wednesday, 6 p.m. still off the coast, expected to make landfall around Thursday at midnight, possibly even a little earlier, around 11, near Bradenton. That's where this model has it, just to the south of Tampa. Going to see a lot of devastating effects there. Gainesville is going to see a lot of rain in our area and gusty tropical storm force winds as we head into Thursday in the really early morning hours, and we could see some of those stronger tropical storm force winds as it heads off into the Atlantic on our Thursday afternoon and Thursday evening. Storm surge, Big Bend area, thankfully does not have too many impacts, 1 to 3 feet scheduled down for up there. But as we head further south, the thing is with the storm is the southern part of the storm in the eye is going to receive the most of the storm surge. So if the center of that track comes over comes over Bradenton, 13 feet, bringing it into Siesta Key. And I drew a couple arrows, and with the center of the track moving a smidge north into Bradenton, there's going to be an offshore wind in Tampa. So that's good for Tampa, not as much storm surge there. However, the counterclockwise flow has these winds and a lot of the storm surge being pushed up into Sarasota, Siesta Key. That's why we could see up to 13 feet down there. Life-threatening storm surge is just not survivable. Wind field also getting very large because of the dry air that is impacting. This white is hurricane force winds as it makes its way onto landfall. Again, this model has it right over Bradenton, but the wind field covering most of the state. We could see some tropical storm force sustained winds and some hurricane force wind gusts as it makes its way through Thursday morning and into Thursday afternoon as it heads offshore, still as a Category 1 storm. So it's going to remain strong as it makes its way through the state, but for the most part, a weaker storm as it heads off into the Atlantic. Wind threat in this area in the Sun Coast, Tampa, Sarasota, could see 111 mile per hour wind gusts. However, for us here in Gainesville, 39 to 57 mile per hour sustained tropical storm force winds. Also, we got a lot of hurricane warnings, tropical storm warnings down south, a couple hurricane watches in the peninsula. Big story so far right now has been the tornadoes, the severe risk. We had a moderate risk on the eastern side of Florida, West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, and Fort Pierce. This is a 3-hour loop of the tornado warnings we've seen. We've seen over 75 tornado warnings, a lot of long tracking wedge tornadoes, which Florida has not seen in centuries. This is probably a once in a century tornado outbreak that's happening on the East Coast and South Florida right now. Even though the eye is offshore, these storms and hurricane tornadoes are not good for that area. Conditions are going to start to worsen as we head into Wednesday night. Wednesday evening going to really start to worsen, and as we head into Thursday morning with landfall, it's going to be pretty detrimental in Tampa and Bradenton. 7-day outlook temperatures looking pretty nice, at least for the weekend and into next week.
Up ahead, the storm surge is going right through the Tampa Bay area, how officials are preparing for Milton, and what a Tampa hospital is doing to ensure the safety of its patients. That and more when First at 5 returns. It's been years since Tampa Bay has seen a hurricane this intense come through. This is in a major evacuation area, and the city is trying to make sure critical buildings such as the Tampa General Hospital doesn't suffer much damage. This hospital sits in one of the most low-lying parts of Tampa and could potentially face historical flooding. They have put up a 9-foot fence to keep out floodwaters built to withstand up to 15 feet of storm surge, which worked well against Hurricane Helene about 2 weeks ago. The hospital is also taking precautions by moving some of their patients out of the first floor. In Pinellas County, all bridges to the mainland have been closed off, allowing for only one evacuation route out of the peninsula along US 19 through Clearwater. And in Tampa, both sides of the Sunshine Skyway Bridge in Tampa have been closed off to access.
A research mission sent NOAA officials right into the storm. Researchers had a bumpy ride into Hurricane Milton aboard a NOAA aircraft. The hurricane hunters rode into the stormy weather to collect critical data to help improve and support hurricane research. You can visit NOAA.gov for information before, during, and after the storm. Here at WUFT, we like to keep all of our viewers informed, including our Spanish speakers.
Here's a recap of the top stories from today's show in Spanish.
La ciudad de Gainesville está bajo aviso de tormenta tropical. Oficiales de la ciudad se han reunido para discutir precauciones adicionales a medida que se acerca la tormenta.
Además, el condado de Alachua está ofreciendo 3 refugios de emergencia para residentes que necesitan alojamiento alternativo. Nos informan que el refugio localizado en el MLK Junior Multicultural Center ya está lleno en Gainesville. Aún hay espacios en el Senior Recreation Center y en el pueblo de Newberry en el complejo deportivo Easton Newberry. La Casa Blanca anunció una nueva página en la red social Reddit que se enfoca en limitar la difusión de información falsa de Helene y Milton. La vicepresidenta Kamala Harris también habló en una conferencia expresando los esfuerzos de la administración para ayudar a los afectados por la tormenta.
And now, before we go, let's get one last good look at the weather. You know, Hurricane Milton is on its way. So, Matthew, what do you got for us?
Yeah, so storm tracks get updated every 6 hours, so 5 p.m. and 11 p.m. The latest 5 p.m. advisory had the track shift just a scotch up to the north, with the center being over Bradenton, possibly the Sunshine Skyway over there. Winds up to 120 miles per hour now, so still a strong Category 3 storm. Moving at northeast at around 17 miles per hour, so it is a quick moving storm. Quickly gets out of our area on our Thursday morning and into Thursday afternoon. Future track with the eye still offshore of Sarasota, about 60 miles down there. Rain is spanning all the way up into Gainesville. Pretty strong rain for our area. Just got a flash flood warning. Tampa could see the eye wall of this storm as it makes its way on the landfall around 12 a.m., possibly a little sooner around 11 a.m. Still not quite sure on what time it's going to make landfall, but we know between 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. is when it's going to make landfall. Thursday at 4 a.m. still seeing tropical storm force wind gusts in our area before it moves out of our area on our Thursday afternoon and into Thursday night. Could see a couple straggling showers. Tomorrow still have a 100% chance of rain because we have those showers in the morning and into early afternoon. But as we head into the weekend, at least we have some cooler temperatures right now. 60 degrees Saturday, 61 on Sunday.
Thanks for joining us on this special tracking of Milton on First at 5. In a matter of minutes, President Biden will address the nation ahead of Milton's landfall.
You can listen in on WUFT FN 89.1 and 90.1. We will be back here tonight at 8 o'clock for another Tracking Milton update.